Okay, so tell me a little bit about what Fact Oregon is and how it got started.
So, Fact Oregon is a nonprofit in the state of Oregon that works to support families and communities and those affected by disability, helping families help their children have whole lives. And we started way back as a coalition in 2003, and it grew. So the first thing was to bring disability organizations together to work collectively to make change. And then eventually some little programs started, and we've just grown since then. We serve as Oregon's Parent Training Information Center. So every state has what's called a PTI that is funded through the Office of Special Education Programs. And so we are Oregon's PTI. We also work as the PTI for the state of Oregon's Department of Education. And so we support families across the state to navigate disability and special education services, along with other work we do with parent leadership, and we train and we work with our community partners.
Cool. That's awesome. So, like, what services do you provide at Fact Oregon?
So we support families directly. We do that in a couple of ways. One is we call it our support line. It's really a portal. So families call, they email, they text, they can use social media, and then they get support by one of our staff on a variety of different topics. Education, especially now through the pandemic, is definitely one of the topics, but we also help families navigate different disability services. We provide trainings to families at no charge. And we also work with community partners and our state partners in talking about how to engage families and individuals within systems, and to make sure our voice is heard. And so we do that. We sit at policy tables. We sit in a lot of meetings, and then we will be active in our legislative session that is starting in a couple weeks. And we watch the bills. We're often asked to testify or weigh in on a bill, and so we watch the session. We're also part right now of the Oregon Partners for Education Justice, which is a collective group who come together for a racially just education system, and we recognize that disability is part of that group. It's who are impacted globally.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So, any particular stakeholders that you partner with in your efforts?
I would say 95% of the work we do is typically in collaboration with another partner. So not only do we work with our Oregon Department of Education, we work with vocational rehabilitation, developmental disability services, as well as we work with medical partners, school partners, so school districts. We also work with community members who provide support to very culturally specific communities, and then we work and we bring subject matter expertise in special education or disability services. So we typically are always working with, it could be the library, it might be the county developmental disability program. So it's varied, but we typically do that. We try and work within communities where there's a presence already, because we find that's just more effective. We don't want to just go in and drop in and then leave. We want to really bolster a community.
Yeah. So, like, what kind of impact does your organization have on communities as a whole and the disability community? If you could speak on that.
I absolutely could, and I should have pulled some of our data. One of the things we do track is data, and we have over 90% of folks from our community partners and families who call for support tell us that they understood the information, they're able to navigate the systems, they know what to do next, and that it was okay working with us. And so I think we're impacting because now we get called to be at tables that we never used to be. So when Parks and Rec are working on something about accessibility, understanding it's not just physical disability and accessibility, but global. And so they will ask if we have family members or if we can serve. So I think that we've worked very hard on awareness because ultimately we're trying to dismantle ableism. And so that's the goal. And teaching families, we have started a parent leadership program. And so that has been over the last year, we've had about 42-ish family members who've gone through and then left and then engaged in their communities, serving in councils and committees to bring advocacy. So I think that that is what our goal is ultimately is to create a world that transforms the way we see disability.
Mm-hmm. You talk about dismantling ableism. So like, how do you like combat the stigma of disability and ableism in particular from your perspective as an organization?
Well, I think that our organization is cross disability, so we don't focus on just one. We are all parents of a child who experiences a disability, and many of our kids experience developmental disabilities. And I think what we do is that we are sitting at the table. We are asking and saying we need change, and we're challenging those old stereotypes. So some of how we do that is one-to-one when we're supporting a family. Oftentimes when we talk to someone, because we know families are raising a generation of self-advocates. We all are raising our own children to be advocates for themselves. And so I think part of it is we're introducing those concepts to families. Then we're introducing those concepts to our partners and sitting at the table with our educators and doing the same. And so it's, as you know, it's not fast, it's not easy, and it's constant. And so we work in the systems to do that. In fact, Oregon is part of a community of practice that works nationally through the youth center or the Center on Youth Voice, Youth Choice. And it's to look at alternatives to guardianship so that when kids are turning 18 and they experience intellectual or developmental disabilities, they're not immediately steered to having a family get guardianship. And so we work with the ARC of Oregon, the Oregon Council on Developmental Disabilities. So we're working in those realms as well and challenging the notions around ableism. We've also introduced a legislative concept that will possibly be put forward this session, but it's actually to change some of how our education system is. And I believe you're from Washington. So Washington has some, they've done work around inclusion, meaning more kids with more significant disabilities in general education classrooms. And we're pushing on that our Department of Ed, we need to set up a system that models that, because ableism at the heart is what we believe keeps kids segregated away from peers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are important points.